So Woolies fishing is a little bit different today. I'm out working out in Cohen, which is the middle of Cape York. Anyone who's travelled through Cape York would know where Cohen is. So there's no fishing here. It's the wet season at the moment. So it's closed Barra season as well. So it's time to get ready for some Barra fishing in the next couple of months. And the very best leader you could ever have for Barramundi is what I call a plaited or twisted leader. And what this comprises of is 4 strands of 20 pound. I use 20 pound, you use whatever you like, making it 80 pound leader. But imagine having a leader that can survive getting nicked and cut, has no knot on the end of it, so it's actually got a loop on the end of it, so we don't actually need a knot. We just put a double in our braid and there's no knot to give away. These are really amazing leaders. I'm going to show you how to tie them. Now there's no doubt in my mind whatsoever that these are the very best leaders for a number of fish, but specifically for Barramundi. Barramundi have really sharp gills. Their teeth are also really quite raspy, so they can wear through leader quite easily. And I've got to tell you, I've caught a hell of a lot of metre plus Barramundi. Quite a few of them have been a metre 20. I've caught them in pretty wild conditions sometimes, and this leader has never ever let go, and I've used it for about 20 years, so it's a really good bit of gear. It takes a little bit of work to, well, they're quite simple to make, but it's a little bit of preparation to be able to tie them. So things you need, you're going to need some leader. I use fluorocarbon. If you want a little bit more stretch, you can use a really fine or a really stretchy mono. I find it hard to go past fluorocarbon because it has a lot more abrasion resistance than the mono does. You're going to need a little drop of super glue, so a bit of super glue, some scissors, and the 2 things you're going to have to make, and they're really simple to make, so don't let this frighten you, but the 2 things you do have to make is a special drill bit. Now, all I've done for that drill bit is I've cut a little circle out of some ply or some timber. In this case, it's a bit of ply, and I've screwed in the 4 hooks. You can see the hooks there, and this jig's about 10 years old, so it's a fairly old one, so the hooks are a little bit rusty and ordinary looking. I've screwed the 4 hooks in, and all I've done is, that's a bit of brass, but you can use an old drill bit or anything you like. Just a nut and bolt is perfect. Anything that'll go into your drill to look like that. So I'll put a picture up and leave it in the corner for a little bit so you can have a good idea of how to copy that. And the other thing you're going to need is a jig board, or whatever you want to call it. Now this has to be the length of the leader you want to use, and you'll know why in just a sec. I've got this at about 1.8, but it's a little bit over 1.8, but by the time I cut the leader off and all that sort of stuff, it's about 1.8 meters long, my leader. And that's about the length of most of my bait casting fishing rods, and I use this on bait casting gear. So all this is, once again, it's a piece of ply, and I've got a single hook on one end, and this other end I've got 4 of those little hooks. So I've got 4 hooks on my drill bit, 4 hooks on one end of that, and just a single hook on the other end. And look guys, you could knock this up in an hour, no problem. They're really easy to make. And once you've got your drill bit, and once you've got your board set up or your jig set up, let's go and show you how to do it. So what I'm going to do is tie one up and just talk you through the whole process as we tie one up. So what we need to do is get 2 strands of this fluorocarbon, but I go down and back up again. So all I'm going to do is tie a little figure-8 knot in the line, which gives me just a really simple loop, and it doesn't have to be anything fancy because it's just got to tie, it's just got to link up, I should say, the line to that first hook, and then I'm going to run this down to the bottom hook, which is just a single hook. It's better. And then I'm going back up to the next hook. I want to put another double in this very next hook on the jig board. So how I do that is I want the line to be not tight but not loose either, so just so it sits there neatly on this board. So I pinch my fingers where the end of that double that I'm going to tie needs to be to link up to that hook, and I keep my fingers there because when I double that line over now, the end of that loop is where my fingers were, and that is where the double is going to finish. So I put a figure 8 knot in there again, and then you can see when I put it onto the board, that's perfect. The line is not tight, but it's not hanging there just loose either, so it's exactly where I need it to be. So we're going to do that again with the next 2 hooks now. Loop on that first hook, come down again, go around that single hook on the bottom, then I'm going to put my fingers where I need that double to, I keep saying double, where that loop knot needs to. I'm so used to saying double because I tie doubles in my leaders all the time, but where that loop needs to finish is where my fingers were. Pull that through there, and now I've got, you can see here the line, like I said, it's not pulled taut or anything like that, but it's not hanging there loose either. So once I've got those 4 strands, which is 2 strands of fishing line, but it goes back and forth, so I end up with 4 strands on these 4 hooks, I'm gonna plait it. Now, when I first started doing this, the biggest issue I had, and this was quite a few years ago, was that whenever I plaited line together, it would all twist up and just be a mess because you're actually spinning the line. So Matt actually taught me how to pre-twist the line. So what I'm actually doing is, I'll move this jig forward a little bit so you can see better. So what I'm going to do is put the drill into reverse. So the drill's going to go backwards, and one at a time I'm going to spin this line for 10 seconds, and I'll show you, I'll tell you why. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the reason why we are doing this is because we're pre-twisting the fishing line so that when we go to plait it, we put the drill in forwards because it's in reverse at the moment, and we plait the line up, and as we plait, it takes the twist that we just put into the line out, so then when we take the line off the jig, it doesn't all curl up in a big ball like it used to before Matt showed me how to pre-twist it. Now you don't have to put it on a stopwatch or anything fancy like that, just roughly 10 seconds. And the reason why I do it for 10 seconds on this particular jig with this particular drill is because you'll see when I actually plait the leader up, it takes about 10 seconds to get a nice tight plait in the leader. If your drill, and you might have to experiment this a little bit, but you won't be too far off 10 seconds. If your drill takes a little bit longer than 10 seconds, then do it for 12 seconds, or if it takes a little bit less, if it's a faster drill, do it for 5 or 6 seconds, whatever it takes to make a nice tight plait in your leader. For this, 10 seconds. So as I twist each one of those, I'll put them back on the hook so they don't lose their twist. But this last one, I put that on, so I can get off the hook. I put that on and I twist it, and then I'm going to put all the other lines on this jig and reverse it so I can plait it up. Alright, so each strand of line has been twisted for 10 seconds. I'm going to put the drill in forwards, and one at a time I'm going to put these lines on a hook. Now what I'm going to do with each strand, I'm going to put them opposite to each other. So we've got that strand going from one hook down to the jig and to the opposite hook on the drill bit, and we're going to do the same with this one. So they're all back on, they're all opposite each other. The drill's now in forward, and we go for 10 seconds again. All right, now 10 seconds was perfect because I could feel the drill starting to get pulled forward, because as the plait went nice and tight, it pulls up on the drill. So you can see here I've got this beautiful nice tight plait all through this line, and there shouldn't be too much twist in it. When I take it off the jig, sometimes it'll turn once or twice, but it won't bind up or be all messy. So from this point, to keep that plait in there, I just want to put a little dab of super glue on this end here, and another on the opposite end. A little dab just there where my loop is. I'm going to leave that for about 10 minutes or so to dry. Come back and make another one. So a few things to know about this plaited leader. That's that end there that ties to the lure. The first time you tie it onto your lure, it's going to have a really stiff spot in it, and that's where that super glue has been holding this plait together. If you cut that fishing line, that plait is going to start to unravel. So you can't cut the line without locking the plait into place. So what I do is I tie my Barra lure onto there, and the thing about Barramundi lures, and why this works so well with Barra lures, is because I don't need my Barra lure to swim straight through the water all nice and neat. So if I want a lure to swim like that, I'll usually put a loop knot onto my lure so the knot itself doesn't pull the lure off track. But with a Barra lure, I throw it into snags and I twitch it and I make it dance all erratic. I don't want it to swim nice and straight. So it's perfect to put a big knot on the end of these and throw it out, and it doesn't matter if that knot actually makes that lure twist, because that's what I'm trying to do anyway. So the first time I tie that onto a lure, I'm going to tie it on with just a simple blood knot. Then I'm going to trim it off so that hard little bit goes, and then if I need to change my lure, just above where I'm going to cut the fishing line, I just have to put a simple knot in it like that, just a granny knot. So there's a knot in that line there. I'll grab my scissors here. Then the lure's obviously attached to it. I'm going to cut the lure off. Now, with that knot still in there, I'm going to tie my new lure on with another blood knot, and then I just need to trim that little knot off. Or, you know what, sometimes I pull the granny knot up to that little knot. Once again, because I want to dance that lure, it doesn't matter if there's a knot in there, but you can do it any way you like. You just have to be aware that if you cut that line without having a little granny knot in it, it's going to unravel itself.
Oh yeah, nice fish.
Oh.
Yeah, he's got that leader right down his throat too. Yeah. He has swallowed that lure.
Nowhere, ain't not a lot there, but she's booked her. Well done, mate. Sure you want this?
The best thing about this plaited leader is that it has a little loop in the end of it. Now all you need to do is, you can see here, I've tied a bimini twist, or you can tie any double you want. Bimini twist is the best way to go because it's such a strong double. So tie a double in your braid. Then you can see here I'm just feeding the double through that loop. Therefore there's no knot in that line at all, and when you're casting and stuff like that, you've got no clunky knot running through your leaders. That'll actually flex quite a bit, so make sure you don't glue that little section there because I've glued down below it. I want that section to be nice, soft and flexible so it can pass through the runners of the rod nice and easily. And I've just got a little bit of super glue just there, so that's perfect. And once again, that is a very stretchy, very strong, flexible leader. You can actually cut a couple of strands off that, and I've actually bought that leader back and I've got strands hanging off it, but it's still got 2 or 3 strands hanging onto it. Well, so with 2 strands hanging onto it, it's still 40 pounds of breaking strain. With even 1 strand hanging off it, if it ran you over rocks or something like that, you'd have to bring them in pretty gently, but you still got 20 pounds of breaking strain even with 1 strand intact. So that is, in my opinion, it's the ultimate barra leader. You will not lose any fish on this unless they absolutely brick you somewhere or your braid breaks.